So I don't often get to do this. In fact, it's very, very rare. But I get to report some good news today. You see, when I went to bed last night, news was starting to break that some of the strange demands that are being placed on gamers may actually have been retracted. Don't know what I'm talking about? Well, let's jump right in to remind you where we were. You see, Sony was demanding PSN accounts for Helldivers 2 players, at least on PC anyway, and it didn't go well. This headline from Ars Technica kind of does a great job of describing it. It was written on the 3rd of May, which, well, was only 3 days ago. And it seemed that Steam was selling the heck out of this, and people playing it on PC were loving it. And, well, maybe that was a problem for Sony, because as the publisher, they weren't getting into your business, at least not the way they wanted to, despite the fact they got into your pocket. Well, let's take a look at this. You see, the news broke on Thursday night that current players of the runaway hit co-op shooter would have to connect their Steam accounts to the PlayStation Network account starting on May 30th. In fact, new players would be required to connect the two starting on May 6th. This went over like a lead balloon, especially amongst people who were just getting ready to start playing with their friends. There's a group I've been trying to join up with, and I wasn't going to spend money on a game that I had to be forced into connecting things. And yes, I know that this doesn't, this happens all the time. This isn't something new. It doesn't seem to offend most people if they know up front that this is going to be a problem. Well, apparently the grace period was going to expire. So gamers reacted and not in a positive way. And also, there started to become a limited audience for this game, especially in countries, 170 in total, that would not have PSN access. So supposedly, and rumored to be the case as of yesterday, and this is an article from Games Radar, so, take it with the appropriate amount of salt. But with 170 countries going to be pulling the game, Valve reportedly ignored its own policy to issue refunds and started to do so for people who just weren't going to have access to the game anymore. And then came the idea that, well, that may not be the case. Sony would waive that for countries that didn't have PSN. And, anybody lacking PSN coverage, according to the Steam database, would basically have the game pulled from that region and basically destroy a decent chunk of the player base, which wasn't going to go over well with anybody. So according to Wario64, a tweet that was cited here by Games Radar, Helldivers 2 on Steam is now unable to purchase in numerous countries after it announced that you were going to be required to have a PSN account. So it raises a bunch of questions. So Valve went about ignoring its own policies and reportedly was issuing refunds to several longtime Helldivers that had logged into Super Earth space for more than 100 hours. Steam policy normally doesn't allow for refunds if a player exceeds 2 hours in game, which makes sense. But since the PSN requirement came months after launch, Valve rightly seems to be making an exception. Now, this was erroneously reported that anybody who wanted a refund because of this was going to get it. Obviously, when the game is pulled from your region, that's an entirely other ball game, and that's why Valve was doing this. But there was a flurry of communication from gamers that was both toxic and a little bit matter of fact, holding their ground. Preserving democracy, let's say. And what happened? Well, something amazing in a story that got, again, reported last night. Something I thought was wonderful. At 9:53 p.m., this posted on IGN of all places. So again, this one I know you can take for real instead of with a grain of salt, but rarely do I trust IGN anymore. But it says PlayStation reverses course on Helldivers 2 PSN account requirement. So there you go. Sony Interactive Entertainment says, we've heard your feedback after fan uproar. Well, I bet you did, because we got a little loud and noisy and difficult to deal with. And you were going to lose a lot of money and even more goodwill pulling all the L's that you have recently. As Jonas J. Campbell would say, there's a lot of unforced errors there. But PlayStation reversed course on Helldivers 2 PSN account requirement, walking back the unpopular policy after a weekend-long backlash that included tens of thousands of negative reviews, something that they could ill afford, some of which spread to Sony's other Steam games. Oh, boy. Yeah. And gamers get mad, and they go at you. And Sony, this is a time to learn a valuable lesson. Stop attacking your huge customer base. It will destroy your profits. I don't care how much money you get access to through, your practice of the illegal DEI, ESG garbage that is not, a profit mechanism for your entity, regardless what you say. You're going to start getting more and more of this. The pushback's happening, and it's going to get worse and worse for you corporations. So, in the response quoted here, Helldivers fans, we've heard your feedback. Feedback on the Helldivers 2 account linking update. The May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players and for current players beginning May 30th, will not be moving forward. We are still learning what is best for PC players, and your feedback has been invaluable. Thanks again for your continued support of Helldivers 2, and we'll keep you updated on future plans. Well, I bet you will. Oh, amazing. So, PlayStation's decision means that Helldivers 2 players on Steam won't have to link a PSN account in order to play. The unpopular policy, which would have seen new players confronted with a mandatory login beginning this week, resulted in Helldivers 2 being delisted in around 177 countries. That's an enormous a part of the world. At one point, Arrowhead CEO John Pilestedt, clearly frustrated over the controversy, posted, "Waking up to the sunshine of yesterday replaced with a dreary drizzle and shivering winds makes me reflect on how I spent my time, those rare few moments when all was perfect." That is a quote, folks. If you want to bring the point home, that's the way to do it. Pilestedt said Sunday that Arrowhead was talking solutions with PlayStation, which apparently led to the decision to not move forward with the policy. Pilestedt also shed more light on the decision-making behind the scenes, admitting that it was his decision to disable account linking at launch so that players could play the game, which makes sense because PlayStation usually has a bunch of bugs, and they're not trustworthy with your information, so why would you give it to them? Really. In fact, I'm going to advocate with each and every one of you that we push back on all this data collection. I think we need to get legislation together to just plain make it illegal. Because really, it doesn't benefit us in any way. And people will say, well, it makes certain things free. No, nothing's free if it requires all your data. That's a huge price that you're paying, and one that can be compromised, obviously, rather easily. So, but I like the fact that he took accountability here. He says, I'm not blameless in all of this. It was my decision to disable account linking at launch so players could play the game. I did not ensure players were aware of the requirement, and we didn't talk about it enough. We knew for 6 months before, and this goes on, launch that it would be mandatory for online PS titles. And this is the other problem we need to fight back against, which is always online games, even though that's not required to be. And to be fair, I mean, even with a game like this, where you have to be online to play together, there's zero reason for a third party to be anything but a facilitator there. That's it. Anyway, so and as he has been throughout Helldivers 2 release, Pilestedt was a vocal presence on social media at various points, apologizing to fans and say he just wants to make a good game. Helldivers 2 recent reviews on Steam currently sit at overwhelmingly negative, dropping it to mixed overall after a wave of review bombing, including more than 200,000 negative reviews. That's not good. I bet you that changes rapidly. So following the PlayStation's announcement, fans expressed hope that future games would not include the requirement. Others urged players to not take out their anger on Arrowhead. Well, I mean, that's fair. They ended up in the crossfire for this, and it wasn't fair to them as they were doing what they were contractually obligated to do. So there you go. I think it's wonderful that gamers were able to get a win. Let's try and get more, shall we? But I'm not sure exactly how much I think matters. I'm not sure how much it matters at all. What do you think? Do you think this is a big win for gamers? Do you think this may tell Sony that in the future, this requirement is ridiculous? If you want to sell your game, but don't require an additional set of circumstances, terms of service, and other things that could make the process more grief for gamers. In fact, I think we need to have all of the gaming platforms stop griefing gamers. I think we should make that the standard. As I said, let me know what you think down in the comments section below. I'm glad to finally bring you some good news, especially on the gaming front. And with that, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and if you're not already subscribed, darn it, please hit the red button down there, turn it to gray, and join my legion today, the Culturians. Why? Well, because we like you. I stole that from somewhere. And until next time, see ya.